Hey, welcome everybody. Glad you're here in the live stream. A fun one today. We're going to talk about none other than the new release that has just dropped today from Robert Keeley at Keeley Electronics and the folks over there. It is the Muse Driver, which you're going to see right there. Oh, look at that. My phone's in the shot and everything. What I try to do is keep the phone there so I can see the chat easier. But that's the Muse Driver right here. And it is a culmination of the many mods that Robert has done over the years on the classic blues driver from Boss. That is one of the things that helped put Keeley on the map early on, in addition to his Tube Screamer mods as well. But it's not about necessarily comparing them, but I had a blues driver, so I thought, why not hook up the switchback from JHS? And we got the little remote switch here, and what that does is the green light, you see it says MD, that's for the Muse Driver, and the red light will be on the blues driver. And we're going to talk about those a little bit, but really this video is just kind of to talk about the new pedal, the Muse Driver, how a blues driver is actually not a blues breaker. So that's another thing we want to maybe dispel as well. And I have some really cool videos about this pedal from Robert himself. Robert Keeley stopped by my house recently. We did a live stream, you may remember, just on Keeley in general. And we shot a couple videos, and I said, instead of making a sort of long form canned video like, you'll see on YouTube, let's do it live and let's work some of those clips in. So I think I can do it properly. So let's make sure that I'm in focus. Let's make sure that's all right. And I'm going to roll this intro from Robert, and he's going to talk about the pedal, and then we'll break and we'll play. Here we go. So it's not every day I get the man behind the pedal to come and sit in the hot seat with me. I have Robert Keeley with me here, and we're going to talk about your newest creation in collaboration with Andy Timmons, called the Muse Driver. The Muse Driver is right. Man. It's an exciting combination that continues on this path that you've laid the groundwork for with the Noble Screamer and getting more sound, sort of typical legendary circuit. Yep. So I'd love if you could just share your overview with my folks about the Muse Driver. Yeah.
The Muse Driver is my take on the Boss blues driver, right. The BD2. And a lot of people might confuse it with the blues breaker, which happens a lot, but this circuit is very unique to Boss. They really knocked it out of the park with this design because they tried to take a Fender super amp or something like that, super reverb, and do it with, semiconductors. So they use like JFETs to simulate tubes. Right. And then they have a clipping section that kind of mimics a power tube section. They take the tone control directly from a Fender tone stack. And so it's a really great platform. There's all kinds of clever stuff in the circuit that they do to push up the bass response to make it sound the way that they had intended. It's been super popular with my customers, and it was one of the first mods I developed.
You ever did, yeah.
Tube Screamer and then the Blues Driver.
Right.
And it was a really great combination because if people were like, hey, I want a sound, but I'm not sure if I want a Blues Driver or a Tube Screamer. And I said, well, the good news is that if you don't like one, you'll probably like the other one.
Yeah, for sure, totally.
Because they're very different from each other.
So what did you do, and what did you do with Andy to really kind of dial this thing in?
Yeah, Andy's been using a modded version of my pedal for quite a while. In that mod, I had actually increased the bass response in a variety of areas, and I'd done a lot of things that were kind of more hi-fi oriented, like selection of capacitors and stuff like that, to try to extract every bit of tone I could possibly out of it.
Yeah.
And I played with the diodes so I could get more of a tube type response, because the Blues Driver is it's a very, very dynamic pedal, and it has several different gain stages on there, and they all act and have their own characteristics. Some things can be actually kind of spiky, and if they have op amp clipping, but if they have JFET clipping, if that's more prominent, then it can have a smoother type of sound, more like a tube, breakup instead of a guitar effects pedal type op amp breakup.
Right, and that's what we're all after, is how to make the pedal be an extension of our tube amps. Exactly. That's traditionally and historically that's been the idea of a pedal.
Yeah.
So there you have it, a little bit of a segment with the man Robert Keeley himself. because he can tell you about JFETs better than I can. I understand that stuff, but why not get it straight from the horse's mouth? I always say that's the best thing. So let's do a little picture-in-picture here. There is the Muse Driver, and there's, of course, our Blues Driver. And I think the thing about this pedal, which or this circuit, is that single coil neck, low gain, sounds like you're pushing a Fender amp. Actually, before I even go to the Blues Driver, let's just go clean. I do have reverb and delay on, a little bit of a tribute to Andy Timmons. And that's just this Sire S7. So I see Kevin is asking, yes, indeed, the Sire S7, because it is a hum single guitar, and that's what Andy plays. I thought, let's play in that ballpark and have some fun for a change. It's going through the TS1 here. This is a very clean amp out to the aux box, out to your ears. And when we kick that pedal on, you can hear... And when I dig in, or play lightly, really touch responsive. And that's what I think, players like Andy that are living in that single coil neck are really looking for. I'm going to turn, just because I know you guys will probably get on me for it, let's turn the reverb down a little bit, and then I can always crank it back up. But I am doing, it's reverb and delay coming from the aux box. So yeah, so that's all you're hearing is the effects in the aux, which is reverb and delay, and then the Muse Driver pushing that. And it's a very light gain. Now the way I have it set up here is I'm playing around with these switches. And yeah, it's a pretty low gain setting, but over here in the drive section, I'll spin the video and have Robert tell you, but they have the AT and the RK. The AT is Andy's mod, the RK is Robert's mod, which we'll tell you about. And then over here on the tone control, there's the AT and the RK. So the AT is going to reduce the bass a little bit, and then the RK brings it back and fattens it up more like his Fat Mod control would have in his Fat Mod pedal. So let's hear him talk about that, because then I'll start spinning the knobs and it'll make even more sense. We'll do a top panel video, and then we will do, oh man, I got to get my focus going here. Sorry, guys. There we go. I'll leave it on manual. And then we'll have him talk about the drive section and the tone control. But we'll bop in and out. So here's another video with Robert. Take me through the top panel there and just show me what's unique about this design.
So, if you could imagine the sound coming in, if you imagine yourself being a sine wave and you come in right here, the first thing you encounter is our JFET buffer. What I like about that so much is it's responsive to the amount of voltage that you apply to the pedal. So you can go anywhere from 9 to 18 volts on this, and that buffer just gets cleaner and cleaner. And then there's this diode switch right here that allows you to select between what Andy likes is this large asymmetrical clipping that's kind of like a tube, but it also lets a lot of his cleans through.
Yeah.
So he plays a lot with a lower gain setting, and then this kind of high headroom with this asymmetrical clipping and a diode. In the RK mode, that is 2 hand-selected germanium diodes between those little JFET tube simulators.
Right.
And so you get a lot more compression then, because it doesn't take very much to get a germanium diode to conduct. So it immediately starts to clip, and it also has a higher capacitance, so it has a smoother sound to it.
I was going to say it's going to smooth that top end off and give people a little, won't be as offended by that circuit as they might have been in the past. Hence where you started with the whole modding process to begin with way back when.
I know, right?
Yeah.
This drive control has 2 elements to it. It has 2 potentiometers in it. It's a dual gain pot. And one section of it, one half of it, controls the first tube, or the first JFET stage, controls the amount of gain in it. It goes through the diodes, whether they're germanium or LED combinations, and then it goes through another final JFET stage, in which the second half of this drive control controls the gain for it. So super responsive, super powerful drive control, because it's controlling it in two different sections instead of most distortion pedals. Just the drive control simply controls the amount of resistance in an op-amp circuit. So it's just a 1-point type of thing. Right. And then the tone control comes after it.
So a little bit more knowledge from Robert himself. I wanted to get that in there because the guy who made the pedal is going to be the one who can describe it better than I can. But we're going to dive deep into the drive settings, why I have this hum single guitar, so we can get a little bit of all flavors. But let's take a listen real quickly. I want to show you something. This is, if we click over to the original Blues Driver, I have them pretty closely dialed in. Here's the original. So what I hear is the Muse Driver is actually kind of almost filtering out some of the stuff that is making the original Blues Driver a little undefined. And when you listen to Andy play, and you're a fan of his playing, you hear that the guy's got nuance, like tons of, very, very purposeful approach to his playing and his tone. So I could hear the difference between the Blues Driver here being a little cloudier and this one starting with the AT mod. Now it does have the arcade switch here I put down because I wanted a little more low end, but I can hear it being more refined. And I think that's probably the best way I could say what's a synopsis of a modded Blues Driver and what does the Muse Driver give us? A more refined Blues Driver sound. Now what I could do, if we lean on this pedal a little bit more, the Muse Driver, well, the RK mode gives you more of that fat modded stuff. When I go to the AT mode, that low end's going to get a little tightened up. So I understand why Andy likes that. When you're playing a Strat, check this out. Here's the educational part. Lots of times in a clean amp, you'll want the low end to help out a Strat. When you add drive to it, it might muddy up that bass even more. So Andy's, to me, is saying, okay, I want drive, but I want the low end to be tailored too. So I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of really shaping that bottom end and all the while giving it a little bit more, light gain as well. I'm going to pause here because I saw that the one and only Robert Keeley has entered the chat. So we want to say hi to our friend Robert. Robert, if you missed it, we played in some of those clips that we shot here in my studio, and it went really, really well. There was a nice synopsis of the pedal. So thank you for doing that. Let's move on a little bit more because we want to talk about the drive functions, the tone control. It's kind of the usual suspects, what you'd imagine, but there's lots of gain in this pedal. So if you do want to hit your tube amp with a low gain sound, you can do that. I mean, I'm not going to do it here because the digital world I'm living in will freak out on the broadcast, but we got a pretty good setting where we're at. And that's what you're hearing there is just the AT drive and tone selection. Yeah, sounds really good. If we kind of start to play with the gain a little bit. Now it starts to get a little crispy, but one of the things I noticed Andy does is he turns his volume down. Lots of fun. I really didn't connect with this pedal until I started kind of trying to live in that Andy world, you know, with the neck pickup and the really sort of melodic intervallic playing and that sort of thing. And it's going there. But what happens is some really, really cool stuff. And Robert, his mod here on the drive section goes from the J-Fet to more of the germanium style. Because he's got the germanium, I always forget, are they transistors? Are they diodes? I can't remember. I don't build pedals. But in any case, it's going to get tighter. It's going to get a little more compressed, and we can play around with some of those sounds. Here we get. Now, you might have heard a volume dip when that happened as well, because when you compress, you usually lose some volume. So you would just compensate, but I actually really like the RK setting for the way I... Thanks, diodes. Thanks, Robert. Live playing on the internet. Sometimes you hit a note, sometimes you don't. But man, there's tons of gain. When you use the germanium diode section, it really starts to compress and act really fun. Even on the high gain setting, as I roll my volume knob down, it's still responding really, really, really well. You know, I could kind of play around with both of these settings, and as I played around with both of these settings, I should say, I found that I kind of like mix and matching them quite a lot. And, you know, for the AT sound up top like that, it was that great glassy low gain, you know. That to me does it. Now, if I wanted to go a little bit more ballsy with the drive, maybe something like that. So there's lots of sounds in there, but it does have that, you know, I've said it ad nauseum, you know, those amp-like feels in pedals. That's what we're all looking for, because we're trying to have an extension of the pedal. Yeah, so you guys are awesome. We've had somewhere around 100 of you. If 100 of you would kindly like that video, that would be super helpful. And if you're new to the channel, we would certainly love for you to subscribe. I also don't want to forget that people are going to be watching this video after it airs too. So we haven't forgotten about you. So we're going to do some more stuff as well. But we would like to drop in our little sponsors thing here and our little, promotions. So check the links in the chat and in the description of the video, because there'll be a link to the Muse Driver, other products that we enjoy and we're using here on the live stream. Those are all Sweetwater affiliate links. They help the channel if you indeed use one to make a purchase. Also, my course, Just the Licks Blues Breakers edition, not Blues Drivers edition, is on sale with the link in the chat for 50% off. So that's another good one to grab up as well. And feel free, as we continue to do this live stream for the next half hour or so, to ask whatever questions that you like. And speaking of questions, our moderator BV is doing a wonderful sound. Robert Keeley, the developer of this fine product, is also in the chat, so he can help out too. I love that he's talking about all the diodes and everything in the chat. That's a beautiful thing that we get to experience with him. So we got Robert, we got BV, Jason Carter, Kevin Krause. Yes, I am playing the Sire. This is a $700 hum single guitar that I got from Sweetwater. I did a video on it, and I really think it's a fine instrument. Larry Carlton and Marcus Miller are the fellas that are also behind this as well. This I haven't used this with an EL84 amp, but I don't have one. That's one to add to the collection, EL84. So there's that. Let's talk about if we wanted to continue to see the differences between the Muse Driver and the Blues Driver. And I like doing this, and I had it earlier by doing the AT and the RK. That got me pretty close. But what I can do, see if we can do this. I love these examples. Got to tune first. What's funny too about this stuff is that you can't always look at the knobs. You just got to use your ears. And I'll say it again, to me, it's always the clarity of what Robert did with these mods. It really makes everything more refined sounding. So when I go to the Blues Driver, can you hear that spikiness and the woofiness that comes with it? That's what the Muse Driver takes away. So here's the Blues Driver woofiness. I can feel it as soon as my pick hits the string, it reacts in a weird way. It's really, really like nerdy and cork sniffy stuff, but it's the kind of stuff that players like Andy Timmons come to Robert and say, hey, can we take this up a notch? You have to figure too, like a company like Boss probably spends a lot of time developing a circuit, and then once it's out, it's out. And then people start to use it and they say, well, what if it did this? And what if it did this? And I can't help but think like that's a big part of where Robert, and the team kind of got started, was just by tweaking subtle things. So Analog Simple Man, thank you for another great review and demo. And Robert for creating another great pedal. And of course, thanks to BV. Of course, where would we be? Where would we be, BV? And Robert says, exactly, those are the two things that the MD offers. You can alter the low end and the spikiness. And we talked a lot about that, Robert and I, and Aaron, from Aaron Pierce from Keeley, who is loads of honorable mention here. Wonderful guy with great ears and a great guitar player too. And we talked about how the Blues Driver isn't necessarily isn't the end all be all, but there's things that they did that really, kind of make it even more usable. And we love that. So let's take a look at the chat a little bit more. I want to get you guys, whoops. I almost hit ban Robert Keeley. Don't want to do that. Still learning the software. And we like to be a man of the people here. So United Effects says he just got a Sire S7, having trouble changing the strings. The B strings ball end is jammed. I've had that happen on all sorts of guitars with these types of tremolos. And what I do is if a ball end gets stuck in the block, I'll take a little Allen wrench or something that's the size of that hole, and stick it in there and just pop it out. That's why, if you remember, back in the 90s, Fender were making those bullet end strings. I don't even know if they make them anymore, but that was to kind of combat that. It had an end that looked like a little bullet, and it fit perfectly up into the tremolo cavity, and you would never get stuck. You got to think those strings are being pulled to tension, and that little ball end is getting jammed through, that tremolo block. So hopefully that helps. And GDW3 said the same thing. There you go. All right. Hopefully that helps. How does it sound through your 335? Hint, hint. Let's check this out. See if this works. All right. So we got one more part of Keeley Electronics here with us today. A big part. This is Aaron, and Aaron is going to help me dial up some great tones that are both Andy Timmons approved and Robert Keeley approved. So let's jump in and spin some knobs, and let's see what we can do.
Let's listen to this sound. This is going to be both switches in arcade mode. So let's hear it without the effect.
Yeah. So what are you hearing, and what are you trying to achieve when you take me through a couple of those switches and knob moves?
Yeah, so lower gain, 10 o'clock on the drive. Just switching the germanium in. And so what that's going to do is it's just going to tighten everything up. It's more compressed. One thing about this Blues Driver circuit, there's just the fizzy top end that you can definitely shape, based on the pickup and the tone control. But what I wanted to show there is same settings, how different of a dynamic you can get with the added germanium. So even volume wise, it comes down a little bit. So you kind of have to boost the level. But yeah, just going for a more compressed sound with that germanium versus the more uncompressed open sound.
Which is normal. Whenever you have any pedal or any gain circuit compressing, you will lose output volume. So you do want to crank that up.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's try that. So germanium, but then cranking the level up a little bit.
Yeah. And it sounds like an amp pushed, and that's always the goal for me with an overdrive pedal, is there is personality happening that feels, amp-like. I hate those buzzwords and stuff, but that's the only way I can really describe it. We have this connection to our amps. We want it to come through in a pedal for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, let's check out. So I'm going to switch this to AT. That's going to be cutting some low bass. And that's the thing Andy Timmons brought to even the Super AT mod and now the Muse Driver. But if I jump to the AT mode, it's going to cut some of that bass. And then let's jump to the AT drive.
Yeah. Now I definitely hear more of that top end start to come out.
So then if we go to the germanium with now a more gained up
feels a little rounded on the top end there. And what I might do here as a guitar player is, turn my tone knob down. And he was saying what Andy likes to do is kind of really play with his volume.
One of my favorite settings whenever you're using the germanium side with the ATs, then to boost the drive up, but then turn the tone down. Kind of achieving a similar thing to your guitar, but this is going to be a really warm,
Yeah, I know where you're going. I love that.
Yeah, without it. If I go back to AT, it's going to be a little bit too top heavy.
Right.
Fizzier sounding.
Fizzier is the word I would use for sure.
Germanium. Now roll your volume back on the guitar. Now full out.
That's nice.
Go to your neck pickup, you'll hear, because we're on the AT, it's going to be, again, that bass cut. Even with the humbucker, it doesn't get too tubby sounding. I'll show you. I'll leave it right now it's on AT. I'll flip over to RK and you'll hear how much, more the fat mod that RK did with the old CD2. You'll hear it can just get tubby sometimes, so it's nice to have that switch based on the pickup you're using.
Wow, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like part of it left.
Yeah. So maybe we like the arcade one.
I don't know. I like both for different reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah. So when you have great minds and great ears in the house, you let them help you get a tone, and that's what was so fun about having Aaron and Keeley over the house. And I thought that in the gear demo world, I thought that like trying this live stream aspect and flying in videos like this could be a really fun way to just spend, a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour or more, depending on how deep into the weeds we get. But I hope you guys enjoyed that, because we help not only explain, how something that seems like, a simple overdrive pedal can do a lot more than just turning it on and getting a good dirt sound. So I did notice, we'll see what we got here. So let's do this. That is the Marshall. That's this Marshall here. That's such a great amp. 1973, 100 watts, wrangled in by the aux box. So that's got that sound already, so if we kick it in, let's boost it. So you asked for it. There you go. Oh, I realized I didn't have my switch on. Sorry, guys. You're going to get pick noise. Let's do that again. Yeah. Let me go back to my reverb setting I had before. Have some fun. This is where, if you've hung in this long, now we're just messing around having some fun. All right, I could do that for days. Lots and lots of fun there. So, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the Keeley Muse Driver, which is a culmination of many of the mods. Let me go back to my screen so I can see some stuff. Many of the mods that Robert Keeley and the team has done with the Boss Blues Driver over the years to get not only a very amp-like sounding pedal to the market with tweaks. That's the whole idea. The low end cut from the AT Mob, the germanium diode addition, and the fat mode type of sound that is typical from his fat mod pedal over the years. And you'll notice too, if anybody is still here, pedals, they store energy. So sometimes when you click those switches, you will hear little clicks here and there. I think that's in just about any pedal. But one of the things also that Robert said in the chat was you can do true bypass or buffered bypass with this switch. And that's really cool. There's a moment that Robert and I were talking about why that's so useful is that you can just do it by holding the switch down now, as opposed to getting inside the pedal and flipping something. Touring guitar techs don't love that because they have to do stuff on the fly sometimes. And, one of the things that I mentioned to him with what I've learned from people like Josh Scott over the years from JHS, a nice healthy dose of buffered and true bypass pedals on a board is totally cool and fine. Having too much or too little of one might not be the best option. So a lot of times your digital pedals will have those options in menus, and you can help use those pedals to kind of retain your tone throughout the signal path. So not a long live stream today. We're going to cut it short. If you got any other questions in the next 30 seconds, fire them off. Otherwise, we'll take a look at let's see here. Yes, Steven says you can't go wrong with a Keeley pedal. There's a reason why a company like Keeley has been around doing this for a while. The RK is awesome with that Marshall. Yeah, it was fun. I got lucky because, you turn an amp on, you might have to make adjustments, and it worked. But what's cool is with my switcher, back to the 2-rock, I can get more. Oh, where'd my reverb go? It's off. There we go. A little cleaner, a little bit more, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. A little less aggressive. Try to match them up. Marshall has that top end sparkle. Back to the 2-rock. Yeah, a little bit more Fendery kind of thing. So I'm a kid in a candy store here, for sure. If you've seen my video with Andrew Masters talking about this little room that I have developed, it keeps me busy and keeps me entertained, as you might imagine. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. I don't think so. And RK says the RK mode with the germs is really, really fun. Or germs, but I think it's germs for germanium. Yeah, and get 50% off my latest course, Just the Licks Blues Breaker Edition. Check out the video I did last Saturday where I talked about how I got some fun sounds with room sound and the aux box and all that thing. It worked out really, really well. Yeah, the Sire, who knew? Fun guitar for $700. There's definitely a link to check out Sire's here as well. No NAMM for me this week. What do you mean? No, I'll be there on Thursday. Headed to NAMM on Thursday. Oh yeah, don't forget about the 18 volts as well as true bypass or buffer bypass. Exactly, and thank you for bringing that to my attention. As you put the higher voltage into a pedal, it's going to help the pedal even open up more with headroom and all that sort of thing. Really, really cool. This is one, if Robert's still in the chat, do you know what the in and out impedance in the buffer is? That's above my pay grade, Christian, but thank you for asking. Really, really good question for those of you that are dying to know. I'm going to let another couple seconds go. If anybody wants to ask a question, there is a link there for the Sire family of the S7s. That's this guitar here. I also did a video on my channel about this guitar. When I got it, I was just surprised at the quality. The neck feels great. It's a roasted maple neck. Personally, the only thing I don't like about it is the lacquered fingerboard and the dots. If it didn't have the abalone dots and the lacquered board, I'd love it even more. But I am not much of a Strat player because I'm going to be honest, I don't love the way I sound when I play a Strat. I'm sure what I was playing there was passable, but you find an instrument that kind of makes you bring out the sound in your head, and Strats for me don't do it the way a 335 or a humbucker guitar does, for sure. Let's see, here we go. Robert Keeley says the input is above 1 meg and the output is below 1K. I think I said that right, Robert? 1 meg, 1K. I got to learn all this stuff. I do have a desire to learn more about the building. I have friends at such great companies like Keeley and Two Rock and all that kind of stuff. Then they're like, just buy stuff and build it and you'll learn. So I built that Sun Fuzz pedal from StewMac. That was pretty fun. And I did get a sense of what the guts are. But aside from that, I didn't really learn much. All right, so back to the thing at hand before we sign off. The Keeley Muse Driver. Just want to see what amp I'm working with. Best of the Blues Driver mods in one pedal, designed in collaboration with Andy Timmons. And very similar, not to say very similar, but it took all the things that you liked about a Blues Driver and made them better. We did a little bit of that earlier. I will say, what do you pair with the Muse Driver? It has to be the Noble Drive or the Noble Screamer. Well, I haven't had either of those pedals long enough. I've had the Noble Screamer for a while. And for me, the Noble Screamer is more, I don't use it in my personal live stuff as much unless I'm playing like maybe a rock or a country thing. And there's some players that just live with it for everything. And I go back and forth. That being said, I would take a Noble Screamer, right here, as a matter of fact. I love the original Nobles. I did a video on that too, about how they're unreliable. I'm sure the new ones are made better, and they've done some things to them. I actually am going to do a live stream I have like a half a dozen Nobles copies or clones on this shelf over here. So we're going to do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But that gold Nobles pedal I'm trying to get, it's just backward. What model Sire? This is Sire S7. So you want to check that out as well. And Kevin Krause says, I like my Sire H7. Great guitar. Yeah, it's pretty shocking. They really, really do good stuff. So finally, if you guys want to check out the Muse Driver at Sweetwater, be sure to do so. Thanks for BV being a wonderful moderator and getting all this stuff together. I love doing that. I love giving him the applause because he deserves it. So is Robert Keeley in the team. So yeah, it's a launch day. So there you have it. I think we're going to continue to do stuff like this when a pedal launches. I think it's more fun than just doing a video because I get to interact with you guys and you can ask me questions. And when companies like Keeley come on and share their knowledge, it's even a more of a goodwill effort to kind of make sure people understand what they're getting when they get the Muse Driver. All right, so that's going to be it for me. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for being here. This is a quick one today, and hope to see you after NAMM with some more cool stuff. But I will be out there checking out all of the fun things, and I'll come back and report. All right, see you next time. Thanks for being here.